Literary Arts Magazine under CSA and the founder and co-president of the Adopted Student Organization.
Octavia's talk will feature navigating the complexities of her adoption from southern China into a white family at just 18 months old. She fit all the stereotypes of the golden Asian child to her peers, but struggled balancing her dual identity and attempting to connect to her cultural roots. Let's give a warm welcome to Octavia as she shares her powerful journey of self-discovery.
Hi, my name is Octavia, but that's not actually my legal name. It's the name I chose to go by coming into college. To start off, has anyone seen the TV show The 100? Well, there's a character named Octavia Blake, and back in high school, I thought she was so badass. She was a fighter, cared so deeply about her friends, and she had to make some sacrifices and decisions to survive. I'm probably not the only person who wanted this, but going into college, I wanted to reinvent myself, and one of the things I did that was going by a different name. At 18 months old, I was adopted from southern China into a white family. Up until second grade, I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah. Most of us are not Mormon, by the way. And then my parents and I moved into a predominantly white town in Connecticut. Do you see where I'm going with this? As an adopted Chinese teenager going to a predominantly white high school, I wanted to be white. I was raised culturally white American, and I wanted to fit into the physical beauty standards that I was surrounded by. I didn't have a lot of Asian friends, but to my white peers outside my friend group, I fit all the stereotypes. I was smart, I was in honors and AP classes, I was quiet in class, and got good grades, my teachers liked me, I played the piano. I'm no science or math genius, but at the same time, I attempted to reconnect to my cultural roots by taking Mandarin all 4 years. And 2 of those years, there was a white girl who always asked me for the homework answers and would only ask her white friends if I hadn't done it yet. At first, it felt validating because someone needed my help, and it made me feel like I knew what I was doing. But when I realized she was kind of taking advantage of me, and I sometimes lied about not having done it yet, so that she wouldn't always ask me first. I think she saw me as being Asian would make it easier to learn Mandarin, but that's not how it works, so I don't know what she was thinking. When my white friends started getting asked out on dates and to dances, I was jealous. I wanted the same kind of experience. My friends are gorgeous, and they absolutely deserved that kind of love, but when everyone around you who doesn't look like you is getting treated differently, I felt like something was wrong with me, like I had to be white in order to be liked romantically. I know it's silly now to think back on craving so much for other people's attention and validation, but that's what was important in my life at the time. These people in my grade, they weren't racist, but interactions like these made me question my identity and value. I wondered if I would ever make new, genuine friends. They saw me as another smart Asian and wanted superficial connection. I wondered if I would ever be loved romantically. They saw me as a nerdy Asian and not the beauty standard, not desirable. I was very negative about myself in other ways, but I wanted to be accepted and loved so badly by others, and in my town, it was mostly white people. I felt too Asian to fit in with white people because without being next to my parents and family, I didn't look adopted. But when I got to college, I tried fitting into Asian spaces, and I realized I had the opposite problem of feeling too white and still like an imposter. One of the biggest factors of how I chose Northeastern was how diverse the college and city is. I wanted to make a change in my mindset coming into college. where I wanted to like who I was, like how I looked, and appreciate my ethnic background. I wanted to surround myself with people who were connected with their culture and wanted to share with others. So freshman year, I went to PAAC club meetings, but some really bad social anxiety took over and stopped me from going regularly. I was overwhelmed by how many people attended, and like, what was I expecting? It's a big school with a lot of Asians. Part of this social anxiety was this irrational fear that people would notice that I'm adopted and automatically not accept me because I wasn't raised by Asians or even around Asians. I felt pressured to fit in and not act like too whitewashed when I went to these club meetings. It was a pretty big culture shock because on top of starting college, being in a big city and figuring out my major, I still didn't feel comfortable about my identity. So a year ago, I joined Ganbei Zine, a Chinese American-led literary arts magazine that's part of CSA. At the time, it was directed by China Chin. I figured I would gain some graphic design skills and wouldn't be too overwhelmed because it was a team of around 10 people. I found great team members and friends, and I wrote 2 pieces for the biannual publications, one called From a Bitter Banana, and the other called If You Were My Mom. I'm so grateful that my team listened to my experience as a Chinese adoptee, and while we didn't have a ton in common, it was a perfect space to listen to each other and work together to make a story outlet that is the magazine. At the same time as I was sharing parts of my adoption story through Ganbei Zine, I was creating a club for adopted students at Northeastern. I had reached out to a couple girls I met before at the CSA Lunar New Year Gala, and through friends of friends, we got an e-board going. I am so proud to say that we will be an official club at Northeastern starting in January. With these 2 clubs, I feel like I have communities here at college. I can write and design my experience as a Chinese adoptee, and I can talk about it with other adoptees. So back to Octavia Blake, the girl from the 100. In her fictional world, she grew up in a spaceship where she had to hide most of her life because of a one-child policy. Sound familiar? Like China's one-child policy that lasted from 1980 to 2016. Now, I didn't have to hide from authorities, but it got me thinking, during the one-child policy in China, people could get fined if people found out that they had more than one child. A couple years ago, I started therapy again, and one of the things I'm still working through is the baggage that comes from being adopted. My adoption papers say that I was found on the side of the road near a hospital in a very rural town called Hongkou County. It's south of Kunming in Yunnan province, very southern China, very close to the borders of Myanmar, Laos, and Vietnam. 23andMe and Ancestry say I have a mix of all 4 of these countries. I was found on this road by someone and taken to the hospital down the street. I don't know if my biological family members or whoever dropped me off would have gotten fined if they had brought me to the hospital doors. I didn't deserve to be given up in the first place, but I definitely deserve to be relinquished in a safer way than on the side of the road. Anyways, my adoption papers also said the hospital treated my dehydration, a bit of malnourishment, eczema. I was later transported to an orphanage in Kunming, which the adoption agency worked with, to match me with my adoptive parents. The name I was given was Bao Meng Yunju. 对不起，我的中文不好，我的发音不好. My Chinese pronunciation is not that good. At this orphanage, all the babies had the same last name as the director of the orphanage, Bao. My parents kept my Chinese first name, Yunju, as my middle name, and then I like to think I got my last name Zagorec because it's the cooler name. My mom's last name is Rose, which is pretty. I like flowers, but my dad's last name is Croatian, and it's probably a very common name in Croatia, but I think it's just cooler, Zagorec. I have so many questions for and about my biological family. What do they look like? Are they even alive? Do I have other family members who are alive? Do I have a biological older brother? What is my medical history? I've done DNA tests, but all I've found out are third cousins, and I'm apparently more likely to get bitten by mosquitoes than others. The deeper questions I have are, why did they give me up? Did they already have a son? Or were they waiting for their only child to be a son? Maybe my biological mother died in childbirth and my biological father couldn't raise me alone. Or he died and she couldn't raise me alone. I feel bitter about these scenarios, but I wouldn't blame them. I was found in a very rural and probably very poor town. Maybe my biological mother was SA'd and didn't have access to a safe abortion. That makes me angry because how can my existence come from something so terrible? I went through all of these scenarios over and over in therapy, and unless a private investigator finds out the answer, I will probably never know. Something my dad told me that I will remember the rest of my life is he feels lucky to be my dad, and he feels grateful that he got to raise and love me. At the same time, it saddens him that for whatever reason, my existence in his life cost my biological family giving me up. It was probably one of the hardest decisions they could have made, and my biological family missed out on me growing up and loving me. I have a question for other adoptees. How weird is it to miss people you've never met and probably will never know? How do you deal with this grief when you've had no say in any of this? Don't get me wrong, I love my adoptive parents. Their names are Melanie and Todd. I will always say thank you to them because they gave me a financially and emotionally stable home. They work hard and they love me, but our love is not conditional. I don't owe them anything just because they adopted me. I deserved all the good things that they gave me. I love them, and at the same time, I wish I was kept within my biological family, my ethnic culture, and my country of origin. All of these can be true and felt at the same time. I hate when people say, I should be grateful that I was adopted, that my adoptive parents gave me a better life. But no, being adopted guarantees a different life. I deserve this. All adoptees deserve unconditional love. I would not be as close with my adoptive parents as I am if they felt and acted like I owed them. While this life gave me a financially and emotionally stable home, it didn't give me my medical history or connections to my culture. If in another life I was not adopted, I would have had connections to my ethnic background, but it might not have given me financial stability and good physical health. A few months ago, China stopped all international adoptions, with exceptions of foreigners adopting stepchildren and collateral relatives within 3 generations in China. All pending adoptions were canceled, except those with already issued travel authorizations. Since 1992, China has sent over 160,000 children abroad, and more than half went to the US. I had so many emotions when I read about it. One of my initial reactions was jealousy and bitterness. I was jealous that Chinese kids could stay in their home country and experience their ethnic culture. I was bitter at the Chinese government for only stopping internationals now. I felt like I was born too early, like I should have been one of them. What about me and the other 160,000 international adoptees? Is China going to forget us? Is China closing one of their doors, literally, on part of its history? What if we want to connect with our biological families? Will this make it harder for us to do that? Looking past my jealousy and bitterness, I think China should have followed through with all the pending adoptions because those prospective families probably felt devastated. These families met with their future child, and all of a sudden, they probably won't see them again. I think in the future, there could be a female infanticide or gendercide because of Chinese culture preferring boys over girls. I know some adoptees were not cared for properly in the orphanages because these orphanages didn't get enough funding, so they could die or suffer with health conditions the rest of their lives. These girls and also special needs kids will grow up and just age out of the orphanage. There are just so many perspectives and emotions that are impacted by China's decision, and we don't know exactly what the future looks like. I told my therapist no matter how hard I try, I still feel so whitewashed and disconnected from Chinese culture. I thought that in a way China was rejecting us from the country and the culture. My therapist made a point that people adopted from China are actually part of Chinese culture and history. We make up an entirely new culture stemming from a culture of patriarchy, of favoring sons over daughters, of building a huge industry of international adoption. It's not inherently positive culture or history, but from 1992 up until now, 160,000 of us are part of Chinese culture and history. I see most, if not all of you, are Asian, and me standing and speaking in front of you is it's terrifying for me. I'm still working through my fear of being perceived not Asian enough or a fake Asian. I wanted to speak today to share my story and also to encourage other adoptees to share their stories. There are now only 160,000 international Chinese adoptees, and all of us deserve to have our voices heard. This journey of embracing my identity and feelings as a Chinese adoptee has been complex and non-linear. Healing is not linear. I've been trying to reconcile feeling both a deep longing for my biological family and immense love for my adoptive parents. Choosing the name Octavia was more than reinvention. I am more than the labels or expectations imposed on me. We are more than names and racial labels and our fears of not being enough. And I wouldn't be here without community. I have to say thank you to Ganbei Zine under CSA for giving me a place to heal, express myself, and explore my identity. Thank you to my adopted student org for making our club official and possible, and for being a reminder that I'm not alone. Thank you, PAAC, for choosing me to speak today, and thank you all for listening and for holding space for me as I share what it means to be a Chinese adoptee. Thank you.